Have you ever funded a party you weren't invited to? For 12 years, I was my family's personal ATM, always dispensing, never questioning. Every emergency, every crisis, every sudden expense somehow landed on my desk. While they made memories, I made transfers. This Thanksgiving changed everything when I discovered the ultimate betrayal hiding behind my mother's tears and my sister's Instagram stories. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My name is Faith Walker, and at 34, I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes the people who should love you most are the ones who use you best. Looking back, the pattern was so obvious it hurts. Every month, like clockwork, my phone would ring with a new crisis. Mom's car broke down, $1,500. Lily's rent was short, $800. Jake needed textbooks, $400. The amounts varied, but the formula never changed. Urgent need plus guilt equals Faith pays. I kept meticulous records, a habit from my job as senior accountant at a Fortune 500 company. 5 years of spreadsheets showed a disturbing truth. $186,000 in loans that were never loans at all. They were expectations dressed up as emergencies. "You're the successful one," Mom would say, her voice dripping with that particular blend of pride and entitlement that only mothers can perfect. Family helps family, but help flowed in only one direction. When I needed emotional support during my divorce 3 years ago, Mom was too busy with Lily's latest drama. When I asked Jake to help me move apartments, he had plans. When I invited them to my promotion celebration, only 2 cousins showed up. The irony? At every family gathering, Mom would parade me around like a prize horse. "Faith handles millions at her company," she'd boast to anyone within earshot. "She's our little financial genius." Then, privately, she'd whisper about Lily's struggles, Jake's setbacks, always ending with that familiar refrain, "Thank God we have you." Every crisis somehow required exactly what I had in savings. It was uncanny how their emergencies always matched my bonus schedule. Tax refund season brought roof repairs. My annual raise triggered Mom's medical procedures that insurance mysteriously wouldn't cover. I see it now. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was an investment that had finally started paying dividends, and they were determined to collect every cent. The disrespect went beyond money. Major family decisions happened in group texts I wasn't part of, Sunday dinners I wasn't invited to, conversations that stopped when I entered the room. "We didn't want to bother you," Lily would say, not meeting my eyes. "You're always so busy with work." Busy funding their lives, apparently. They planned Dad's memorial service without me, then handed me the $8,000 funeral bill. They renovated Mom's kitchen, chose everything from cabinets to countertops, then texted me the contractor's invoice. They even adopted a family dog, a golden retriever named Max, and set up a monthly pet care fund that automatically drafted from my account. The Thanksgiving before last was typical. I arrived with my homemade pies to find them deep in conversation about the annual family vacation. Brochures spread across Mom's dining table, everyone debating between Cancun and Hawaii. "Oh, Faith's here," Jake announced, like I was the mailman, not his sister. They didn't ask my opinion or preferences. They'd already decided the dates, naturally during my company's busiest quarter when I couldn't possibly take time off. But they'd calculated my contribution down to the penny, $4,500 to cover Mom and Lily's portions. "You understand, don't you, sweetie?" Mom patted my hand. "Some of us can't afford these things without help." I kept every receipt, every transfer, every broken promise. Not out of pettiness, but from a desperate need to prove to myself that this was really happening, that I wasn't imagining the pattern. My therapist would later call this documentation as self-validation, keeping evidence when gaslighting makes you question your own reality. Those files would become more important than I ever imagined. But that Thanksgiving, I just smiled, wrote the check, and wondered if this was what family really meant. Why did I keep paying? The answer hurts more than the money ever did. I was the scholarship kid who made good, the first college graduate in our working class family. Success felt like survivor's guilt wrapped in a bow of obligation. Every achievement widened the gap between us, and money seemed like the only bridge back. Mom knew exactly which buttons to push. She'd raised me on stories of sacrifice, how she worked 3 jobs after Dad died, how she went without so we could have. The guilt was programmed into my DNA, activated by her sighs and strategic silences. "I don't know what we'd do without you," she'd whisper during our monthly calls, voice trembling just enough. "You're the glue holding this family together." 12 years. That's how long this pattern ran. 12 years of depleting my savings, canceling my own plans, working weekends to cover their expenses. I delayed buying a home, drove a 10-year-old Honda while funding Lily's lease on a BMW, ate ramen while they dined out on my dime. My colleague Robert Sterling noticed the strain. As CFO, he'd mentored me for 7 years, watching my talent clash with my exhaustion. "Faith, you look like you're carrying the world," he said one Monday after I'd worked another weekend. "Whatever it is, it's affecting your performance." I brushed off his concern, but he wasn't wrong. I was drowning in other people's choices, suffocating under the weight of being needed. The promotion I'd worked toward for 3 years sat just out of reach, sabotaged by my divided focus and depleted energy. Until Thanksgiving arrived with a phone call that would change everything. By November, I was running on fumes, financially and emotionally. My savings account, once robust with 6 figures from years of careful planning, had dwindled to barely 3 months of expenses. The house down payment I'd saved for 5 years, gone to Mom's emergency roof repair that somehow became a full renovation. My retirement contributions, paused indefinitely to cover Lily's temporary expenses that stretched into years. The exhaustion showed everywhere. Dark circles that concealer couldn't hide, hands that shook during presentations. The third cup of coffee before 10 a.m. just to stay functional. I was 34 but felt 50, aged by the constant stress of being everyone's safety net while having none of my own. "You're burning out," Robert said during my quarterly review. "Your work is still solid, but you've lost that spark. What's going on?" I couldn't tell him the truth, that my family was a financial black hole, sucking in everything I'd built, that every raise, every bonus, every achievement just meant more for them to take, that I hadn't bought new work clothes in 2 years because Lily needed designer bags for her career. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, had been warning me for months. "You're enabling them, Faith. This isn't help, it's harm, for everyone involved." But knowing and doing are different beasts. Every boundary I tried to set crumbled under Mom's tears or Lily's crises. I'd promised myself, this is the last time, while already reaching for my checkbook. The breaking point was coming, though I didn't know it yet. My credit cards were maxed from covering their emergencies. My own emergency fund was depleted. One more crisis, and I'd have nothing left to give. That's when Mom called about Thanksgiving. The company holiday party loomed like a storm cloud on my calendar. December 15th, Grand Ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton, 200 guests including the entire board of directors. This wasn't just any party. It was the event where promotions were subtly announced, where careers were made or stalled. Senior controller position was opening up, and I'd been positioning myself for 2 years. Robert had hinted I was the frontrunner, but nothing was certain. My family always attended. It was tradition, their annual opportunity to bask in my success while simultaneously undermining it. Last year, Lily got wine drunk and loudly asked the CEO's wife for a small loan. Mom cornered my department head to complain about how Faith never visits anymore, always choosing work over family. "Your family certainly is colorful," Robert had said diplomatically afterward. This year felt different, more precarious. The board would be watching, evaluating not just professional competence, but personal judgment. How you managed your life spoke volumes about how you'd manage their money. I'd already caught whispers in the break room. "Faith looks exhausted lately. Is she having personal problems?" Maybe she can't handle the pressure. The invitation sat on my desk like a ticking bomb. Plus 3 guests allowed. Mom had already texted twice about their outfits, assuming their attendance was guaranteed. Lily posted on Facebook about corporate party season, tagging the Ritz-Carlton. They didn't know I was one crisis away from bankruptcy. They didn't know my credit cards were maxed, my savings depleted. They didn't know that this party might be my last chance at the promotion that could save me financially. Or maybe they did know. Maybe that's exactly why Mom's Thanksgiving call came when it did. If you're finding value in Faith's story, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I share these real-life stories every week to help people recognize toxic patterns and build healthier boundaries. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been the family ATM? Let's support each other. Now, back to that fateful Thanksgiving call. The call came Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Mom's contact photo lighting up my phone during my lunch break. Sweetie, I have some bad news. Her voice carried that practiced tremor, the one she'd perfected over years of manipulation. We need to cancel the family trip this year. The annual post-Christmas vacation was sacred tradition. 5 days at a resort, all 23 family members, entirely funded by me. I'd already transferred $12,000 to Mom's account for deposits. What happened? I asked, though I could predict the script. Everything's just so expensive now. The economy, you know? Your brother's hours got cut. Lily's struggling with her bills. A theatrical sigh. We're all sacrificing this year. Mom, I already sent the deposit money. Oh, that went to more pressing needs, honey. The mortgage was behind. Lily's car was about to be repossessed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We're barely keeping our heads above water. The familiar guilt washed over me. Here I was, eating sushi for lunch while my family struggled. What kind of daughter? What kind of sister was I? I can send more, I heard myself saying. Maybe we could still do something smaller. No, we couldn't ask that of you. You've done enough. The noble suffering in her tone was Oscar-worthy. We'll just have a quiet Christmas at home, together, as a family. Together. The words stung, implying I was the one who stayed away, who chose work over them. I'll work extra shifts over the holidays, I offered. Send whatever I can. You're an angel, Faith. I don't know what we'd do without you. I ended the call and immediately signed up for weekend shifts through New Year's. Time to be the family hero again. I threw myself into work with desperate determination. Black Friday through Christmas, I was a ghost haunting the office, surviving on vending machine coffee and whatever leftovers appeared in the break room. 60-hour weeks became 70. Weekend shifts blurred together. I missed my book club's holiday party, canceled dinner plans with friends, even skipped my apartment building's Christmas gathering. Everything sacrificed for the overtime that would help my struggling family. By mid-December, I'd scraped together another $5,000. The transfer went through on December 18th, labeled Emergency Fund, in my meticulous records. Mom's response was a brief text. Received, thank you. No details about how it would help. No gratitude beyond those 3 words. But then, appreciation had never been their strong suit. What struck me as odd was the sudden social media silence. Lily, who normally posted 12 times a day, went dark after December 20th. Her last post, a vague, big things coming, sat there gathering likes while she ignored my texts. Mom stopped calling with her daily crises. Jake didn't text asking for quick loans. Even the extended family group chat fell silent. Probably busy with the holidays, I told myself, working late on December 23rd while the office Christmas party happened 2 floors down. Robert stopped by with a plate of food. You should be celebrating, not grinding, he said, setting the plate on my desk. Just finishing up year-end reports. He studied me with those sharp CFO eyes. Faith, whatever you're trying to prove or pay for, it's not worth losing yourself. Radio silence from the family should have been my first clue. In 12 years, they'd never gone 3 days without needing something. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in unsettling quiet. I texted Mom at noon. "Merry Christmas Eve. Hope you're all doing okay." Read at 12:03 p.m. No response. Tried Lily at 3 p.m. "Hey, missing you. How's everything?" Read immediately. Nothing. Even Jake, who usually at least sent back an emoji, left me on read at 5:47 p.m. The family group chat showed everyone online but nobody talking. 23 family members and not one Merry Christmas or Miss You or even a festive gif. The last message was from Aunt Helen on December 20th. "Can't wait." Can't wait for what? I spent Christmas Eve alone in my apartment, wrapping presents I'd bought months ago for family members who couldn't be bothered to acknowledge my existence. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd funded their entire year, but didn't merit a simple text back. My friend Sarah invited me to her family's dinner. "You shouldn't be alone on Christmas." "I'm fine," I lied, staring at my silent phone. "Just tired from all the overtime." By 11 p.m., the anxiety was eating me alive. Were they okay? Had something happened? Was there an emergency they weren't telling me about? The girl who'd spent 12 years being their emergency contact was suddenly completely cut off. I poured a glass of wine and opened Instagram to distract myself. Maybe seeing other people's Christmas celebrations would ease the strange knot in my stomach. Scrolling past colleagues' family photos and friends' holiday parties, I felt the isolation deepen. Then I refreshed my feed. And there it was. Lily's story, posted 3 minutes ago from Aspen, Colorado. But before I tell you what I saw in that Instagram story, you need to understand something about me. I document everything. It started as professional habit. As senior accountant handling million-dollar portfolios, meticulous record-keeping wasn't just good practice, it was survival. But somewhere along the way, it became personal armor against gaslighting. Every transfer to Mom's account, screenshotted, filed, backed up. Every loan to Lily, documented with date, amount, and promised repayment terms that never materialized. Every emergency expense for Jake, categorized, totaled, tracked in a spreadsheet that would make my CFO proud. 5 years of data lived in a password-protected folder called Family Finances. Multiple backups, cloud storage, external drive, even printed copies in my safe. My therapist called it evidence hoarding, but I called it sanity preservation. The totals were staggering. $186,000 over 5 years, not including the recent $17,000 for the canceled trip and emergency fund. Broken down. Mom, $89,000 in household emergencies. Lily, $72,000 in temporary help. Jake, $25,000 in education expenses. The spreadsheet included subcategories. Patterns emerged in black and white. Mom's emergencies aligned with vacation seasons. Lily's crises peaked around fashion weeks and music festivals. Jake's textbook needs mysteriously cost the exact amount of new gaming systems. "You're building a case," Dr. Martinez had observed during our last session. "But against whom and for what court?" I didn't know then. I just knew that someday, somehow, I'd need proof that this wasn't all in my head. That the financial drain was real, quantifiable, destroying my future for their present. That folder sat on my laptop as I stared at Lily's Instagram story, about to become more valuable than I'd ever imagined. There was another piece of this puzzle you should know about. Robert Sterling wasn't just my CFO. He was the only person who truly saw what was happening to me. 7 years ago, he'd hired me fresh from my MBA, seeing potential where others saw inexperience. He'd guided my career with patience and wisdom, becoming more mentor than boss. But lately, his concern had shifted from professional to personal. "Faith, I need to share something," he'd said during a coffee break 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. "I grew up with a family like yours, vampires, not relatives." The word hung between us. Vampires. "They drained me for years," he continued. "Every success made me a bigger target. Every raise meant more hands reaching out. He stirred his coffee slowly. Lost my first marriage. Nearly lost my sanity. Definitely lost my savings. How did you stop it? Public accountability. His eyes met mine. When everyone knows the truth, manipulation loses its power. Darkness can't survive in light. He'd slipped me his personal cell number. If you ever need backup, professionally or personally, call me. Sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born into. I'd tucked that number away, never imagining I'd need it. Robert had built his walls, found his peace. He understood the cost of boundaries, the price of freedom from family who saw you as a resource, not a person. Document everything, he'd added as we returned to work. Financial abuse thrives on shame and silence. Break either, and you break the cycle. His words echoed now as I stared at Lily's Instagram, my finger hovering over the screenshot button. Document everything. This story is resonating with so many of you. If you've ever felt used by family, you're not alone. Please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I post new stories every Tuesday and Friday. What would you have done in Faith's position? Let me know below. Now, let's see what happens at that company party. The Instagram story played in a loop, each viewing another twist of the knife. There was my entire family, all 23 of them, raising champagne flutes in what was clearly the lobby of the St. Regis Aspen. Mom wore a fur coat I'd never seen before. Lily's designer ski outfit probably cost more than my monthly rent. Jake had his arm around a girlfriend I didn't know existed. The caption read, "Family Trip 2024, so blessed, #Aspen vibes, #family first." I clicked through to the tagged location, the St. Regis Aspen, 5 stars. Peak season rates starting at $2,000 per night. My hands shook as I switched to Mom's Facebook. She'd been careful. No public posts. But she'd forgotten about tagged photos. Cousin Emma had tagged everyone at Richardson Family Annual Vacation, Aspen 2024. The album was extensive. Spa treatments, 5-course dinners, ski lessons with private instructors, snowmobile tours, shopping trips to designer boutiques. Every photo featured my family living their best life on what was supposed to be a canceled trip. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. Aunt Helen raising a glass. Uncle David on the slopes. My teenage cousins in matching ski gear. Even Mom's bridge club friend Margaret had somehow made the cut. The timestamp on the first photo, December 21st, 3 days after I'd transferred $5,000 for their emergency fund. While I was working overtime to help with their financial struggles, they were booking Mountain View suites. I screenshotted everything, every photo, every tag, every location check-in. The evidence folder on my laptop gained a new subfolder, Aspen Betrayal. Lily posted another story as I watched. Her, Mom, and Jake at dinner, lobster and steak on their plates. Living our best life. Family is everything. Family is everything. Except, apparently, me. The full scope of their deception unraveled as I deep dived into social media like a detective at a crime scene. Jake's girlfriend had posted stories for 3 days straight. The reservation at Matsuhisa, $3,000 for the whole family. The private ski instructor, $500 per hour, booked for multiple sessions. The spa day that Mom, Lily, and 4 cousins enjoyed, $400 per person. Uncle David's LinkedIn, of all places, had a post. Grateful for family time in Aspen. Sometimes you need to step away from the grind and remember what matters. Posted while I was alone on Christmas Eve, wondering if they were okay. The planning went back months. In the family group chat I wasn't part of, screenshot helpfully provided by Emma's public Facebook. They'd been coordinating since October. "Don't mention this to Faith," Mom had written on October 15th. "She's so busy with work, we don't want to burden her." Burden her? But taking her money wasn't a burden? Aunt Helen had responded. "Should we at least invite her?" Mom's reply. She'll just make everyone feel guilty about the cost. You know how she is about money. How I was about money? I was how I was because I was the one paying for everyone else's life. The most damaging discovery came from the resort's public Instagram. They'd featured my family in their stories. The Richardson family returns for their fifth annual holiday celebration. Fifth annual. They'd been doing this for 5 years. Every year I'd funded a canceled trip that happened without me. Every year I'd worked through the holidays while they celebrated on my dime. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. Deliberately, methodically, annually. December 27th, 8:43 a.m. 2 days after Christmas, while they were still in Aspen according to Jake's location tag, Mom texted me. "Hi, sweetie. Hope you had a nice Christmas. Hate to ask, but we have an urgent situation. Need $2,800 by tomorrow. Lily's in trouble." I stared at the message. They were literally on vacation with money I'd given them for emergencies, and they had the audacity to ask for more? 3 dots appeared. Mom was typing. "I know things are tight for you too, but family helps family. Lily's apartment situation is desperate. She could be evicted." Evicted? While posting photos from a $2,000 a night resort. Another text. "Can you wire it today? You know how you're the only responsible one we can count on." The only responsible one. The only one not invited to Aspen. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Rage-filled paragraphs about betrayal and lies. Hurt-soaked questions about why I wasn't good enough to include. Detailed accountings of every dollar they'd stolen. But then I remembered Robert's words. Sometimes the best response is the unexpected one. I opened my banking app and looked at the automatic transfers scheduled for January. Mom's household help, $1,500. Lily's temporary assistance, $1,000. Jake's student loan help, $500. I canceled them all. Then I went back to Mom's text and typed 6 words that would change everything. "Ask your favorite child. I'm done." Send. The read receipt appeared immediately. The 3 dots started and stopped 5 times. My phone began ringing. Mom, then Lily, then Jake, then Mom again. I declined every call, then typed one more message. "See you at the company party. We need to talk." December 15th arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that makes everything feel significant. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton gleamed with holiday perfection. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, a string quartet playing jazz arrangements of Christmas classics. 200 of the city's financial elite mingling in their finest, plus their families. I arrived early, my laptop bag heavier than usual with its cargo of truth. The USB drive in my pocket contained 5 years of evidence, formatted into a simple, devastating presentation. Just in case. "Faith, you look stunning," Robert appeared at my elbow, his wife Sandra beside him. "That's quite a transformation from the overtime zombie I saw last week." "I finally got some sleep," I said. It was true. After sending that text to Mom, I'd slept better than I had in years. "Your family coming tonight?" Sandra asked innocently. "Oh, they'll be here." And they were. 7:47 p.m., fashionably late as always. Mom swept in wearing a new dress. Nordstrom, I'd guess. Probably $400. Lily followed in heels that screamed Louboutin. Jake had managed a proper suit for once. They moved through the crowd like they owned the place, Mom already working the room. She spotted me by the bar and approached with arms wide. "Faith, darling, you look tired. Working too hard as always?" The hug was performance art. The whispered, "We need to talk about your text," was the real message. "Later, Mom. Enjoy the party." I watched them work the room. Mom charming my colleagues with stories about her successful daughter. Lily flirting with junior analysts. Jake sampling every appetizer twice. They had no idea that in exactly 1 hour, during the traditional family acknowledgments, everything would change. At 8:45 p.m., the CEO clinked his glass for attention. Time for the traditional speeches, usually corporate platitudes about family values and work-life balance. Before we continue, he announced, I'd like to invite family members to share what our team means to them. Mrs. Walker, I believe you wanted to say something? Of course she did. Mom never met a microphone she didn't love. She glided to the podium like she'd been born for this moment. Thank you, James. I'm Margaret Walker, Faith's mother. The crowd quieted, 200 faces turning toward the stage. Family is about sacrifice, she began, her voice carrying that practiced emotion. It's about supporting each other through thick and thin. In the Walker family, we've learned that success isn't individual, it's collective. I almost laughed. Collective success, individually funded. My daughter Faith embodies our family values. She understands that when one of us struggles, we all struggle. When one succeeds, we all succeed. She dabbed at her eyes. This year has been particularly challenging. We've all had to make sacrifices, cancel plans, tighten belts. Cancel plans. I glanced at Robert, who raised an eyebrow. But we support each other. We don't keep score. We don't hold grudges. Her eyes found mine in the crowd. Real family means showing up for each other, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs us. The irony was suffocating. She was literally describing everything they didn't do while taking credit for values they didn't have. Faith has taught us so much about responsibility and giving. James, our CEO, started to applaud, then turned to me. Faith, would you like to respond to your mother's lovely words? The room waited. Since we're discussing family sacrifices, I said, standing slowly, I have something to share. I walked to the podium with the calm that comes from having nothing left to lose. Thank you, Mom, for that beautiful speech about sacrifice and showing up. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the presentation screen. I'd like to show everyone what showing up looks like in the Walker family. The first slide appeared, the Aspen photos from Instagram. This is my family's canceled vacation from last week, the one that was supposedly impossible due to financial hardship. I swiped. Here's the $3,000 dinner at Matsuhisa, the private ski lessons, the spa day. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mom's face went white. What you don't see in these photos is me. Because while I was working overtime to fund this trip, yes, fund it, I wasn't invited. Next slide. My bank statements. 5 years of transfers highlighted. $186,000 over 5 years. Every emergency, every crisis, every desperate situation. My voice stayed steady, professional. These are facts, not feelings. Lily stood up. Faith, you're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I clicked to the screenshot of Mom's message in the family group chat. Don't mention this to Faith. She'll make everyone feel guilty about the cost. The room was silent except for the jazz quartet, who'd stopped playing mid-song. Yesterday, while still on this vacation I funded but wasn't invited to, they asked for another $2800 for another emergency. I looked directly at Mom. You talked about not keeping score, but when one person pays every bill while being excluded from every celebration, maybe it's time to check the tally. Robert Sterling stood up from his table. May I see those documents, Faith? I handed him my phone. He studied it, his CFO face unreadable. The entire room held its breath. Robert Sterling commanded the room's attention without raising his voice. That's what 30 years in finance teaches you. Real power doesn't shout. I've reviewed these documents, he announced, still scrolling through my phone. As CFO, I recognize meticulous record-keeping when I see it. These transfers are documented with the precision of someone who knew she'd need proof someday. He looked at my mother. Mrs. Walker, this appears to be systematic financial exploitation. How dare you? Mom started. I dare because I've been there. Robert's voice carried across the ballroom. My family did the same thing, bled me dry while calling it love, took my success as their entitlement, used guilt as their weapon of choice. He handed my phone back and addressed the room. What Faith is doing isn't selfish, It's self-defense, and it takes extraordinary courage to do it publicly. Sandra Sterling joined her husband. We've watched Faith work herself into exhaustion, funding a family that couldn't bother to include her in their celebration. That's not love. That's abuse. The crowd's energy shifted, heads nodding, sympathetic glances. One woman at table 3 whispered, "My sister does the same thing to me." James, our CEO, stepped forward. "Faith, I had no idea you were managing this level of pressure. Your performance has been exceptional despite it." Because of it, Robert corrected, Faith learned to document everything, track every detail, maintain impeccable records. These skills make her invaluable to our firm, which is why I'm recommending her for senior controller, effective immediately. Gasps from the crowd, the promotion, announced here in front of everyone. Mom sank into her chair. Lily's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but Jake was looking at me with something I'd never seen before. Respect. Lily couldn't let it end like this. She never could stand being outmaneuvered. "This is ridiculous!" She stormed to the front, designer heels clicking. "Faith is twisting everything. We're a family. Real family doesn't keep score." "You're right," I said calmly. "Real family doesn't, which is why I stopped." "You're destroying us over money?" Her voice pitched higher, performing for the crowd. "After everything Mom sacrificed for you?" "What exactly did she sacrifice, Lily? Please, tell everyone." Lily faltered. She worked 3 jobs. 20 years ago. What about the last 5 years, while taking $89,000 from me? You offered. Under false pretenses, every single time. I pulled up another screenshot. Here's you posting from Aspen while claiming to be facing eviction. Someone in the crowd actually laughed. Lily turned to the audience, tears on command. "She's our sister. Family helps family." "Real family doesn't keep secrets," I responded. "Real family doesn't plan 5 annual vacations specifically excluding one member while taking their money." An older woman at table 7 stood up. "Young lady," she addressed Lily, "I've been watching this unfold and you should be ashamed. Your sister funded your lifestyle while you couldn't even invite her to dinner." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." The woman's voice was steel. "I was a Faith once, 40 years ago. It took me decades to recover financially and emotionally from family like you." More murmurs of agreement. Stories whispered between tables. The room's judgment was clear and unanimous. Lily looked around desperately, finding no allies. Even Jake had stepped away from her. "This isn't over," she hissed at me. "You're right. It's just beginning." I returned to the podium one last time, the room now completely mine. "I want to be clear about something," I began, meeting my family's eyes. "This isn't about revenge. It's about reality." I pulled up my banking app on the presentation screen, showing the canceled automatic transfers. Effective immediately, all financial support ends. No more monthly transfers. No more emergency funds. No more loans that aren't loans. Each word deliberate, witnessed by 200 people. "But Faith," Mom started. "I'm not finished." My voice stayed level, professional. "I love you. That hasn't changed. But love doesn't require bankruptcy. Love doesn't mean accepting exploitation." I looked at Jake, who'd been silent throughout. "If you want a relationship with me, it can't involve money. Ever." Then to Lily. "Your financial emergencies are no longer my responsibility. You're 28. Figure it out." Finally, Mom. "You raised me to be responsible. Congratulations. I am. Responsible for myself first." Robert Sterling started clapping. Slowly, deliberately, Sandra joined. Then another table, another. The applause spread through the ballroom, not triumphant, but supportive, acknowledging the hardest boundary anyone can set. "My bank is closed," I announced over the applause, "but my heart remains open. Anyone who wants a relationship without transactions is welcome in my life." I stepped away from the podium, walked straight to my table, and sat down. The presentation screen still showed my banking app, the canceled transfers a testament to change. Mom gathered her purse, her face a mask of humiliation and rage. Lily followed, still sputtering about family loyalty. But Jake walked over to my table. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I knew it was wrong. I was just too weak to say anything." The first crack in the wall. The immediate aftermath was both exactly what I expected and completely surprising. Mom left the party without another word, her exit as dramatic as her entrance. Lily attempted one last scene in the lobby, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You'll regret this when you're old and alone." But she was wrong. I wasn't alone. As my family stormed out, colleagues approached my table. Stories poured out, siblings who drained savings, parents who demanded percentages of salaries, cousins who only called when rent was due. "You did what I've dreamed of for years," Patricia from accounting whispered. "My brother has taken 40,000 over 8 years." By the end of the night, I'd exchanged numbers with 12 people who'd lived similar stories. We'd form a support group later. The recovering family ATMs, we'd joke, though the pain behind it was real. The family response was swift and predictable. Mom blocked me on everything: phone, social media, email. Lily posted a vague Instagram story about toxic people who choose money over blood. The extended family picked sides, most choosing the narrative where I was the villain. But Aunt Helen called that night. "Faith, I'm proud of you." Her voice was thick with emotion. "I've watched this for years, said nothing, and I'm ashamed. Margaret's my sister, but what she did was wrong." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because I wasn't the one paying the price. It was easier to stay quiet." A pause. "I documented some things too. The planning meetings you weren't invited to, the jokes about Faith's bank. If you need witnesses, I'm here." The first ally from inside. There would be others eventually, people who'd stayed silent out of comfort but couldn't stomach the public humiliation of truth. Monday morning arrived with a new nameplate on my door. Faith Walker, Senior Controller. The promotion wasn't charity or sympathy. Robert made that clear in our meeting. "You've been ready for this for 2 years," he said, signing the paperwork. "But you were too exhausted to see it, too drained by vampires to recognize your own worth." The salary increase was substantial, 40% raise, bringing me to $175,000 annually, more than enough to rebuild everything I'd given away. The bitter irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been qualified for money that could have easily covered their emergencies without destroying my savings. "There's more," Robert continued. "The board was impressed by your presentation, not the family drama, the documentation. They want you leading the new financial transparency initiative, a position that would put me in front of more leaders, more opportunities." My personal boundary setting had become professional advancement. Word spread through the office. Some whispered about the party drama, but most expressed admiration. I became the unofficial advisor for colleagues dealing with family financial abuse. My office saw a steady stream of visitors seeking advice on setting boundaries. "You gave us permission," Thomas from IT explained. Seeing someone actually do it, publicly, with consequences, it made it real, possible. I started a lunch group, Financial Boundaries in Families. Within a month, we had 30 members. HR approved it as an official employee resource group. The company even brought in financial therapists for workshops. The ripple effects were extraordinary. 3 colleagues cut off financially abusive relatives. 5 more set strict lending limits. 1 discovered her mother had opened credit cards in her name. My story became their catalyst. My boundaries became their permission slip. 6 months later, my financial transformation was stunning. Without the constant drain of family emergencies, I saved $3,000 monthly. The raise added another $20,500. In half a year, I'd accumulated $33,000, more than I'd saved in the previous 3 years combined. I took my first real vacation in 5 years. Greece, 10 days, alone. No guilt, no emergency calls to ruin it. Just me, the Mediterranean, and the kind of peace money can't buy but boundaries can. The Instagram photos from that trip were my first social media posts in months. Santorini sunsets, Athens museums, me genuinely smiling, without the exhaustion that had marked my face for years. Lily saw them, apparently. She texted from a number I hadn't blocked yet. Must be nice to vacation while your family struggles. I didn't respond. But I did screenshot it for my irony folder, right next to her Aspen photos. The financial recovery went beyond savings. My credit score jumped 50 points once I paid off the cards I'd maxed covering their expenses. I started investing again, 401k contributions maxed, Roth IRA funded, even a regular brokerage account for the house down payment fund. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, noted the physical changes too. You look 5 years younger. Your shoulders aren't touching your ears anymore. When did you stop grinding your teeth? About a week after the party. But the universe wasn't done with plot twists. Jake texted in month 4. I got a second job, paying my own bills now. Thought you should know. Then month 5. Paid mom back $1,000 I borrowed. Told her I learned from the best. He was trying. Actually trying, without asking for anything. 1 year later, I hardly recognized my life. The family had reshuffled like a deck of cards. Mom maintained her silence, pride stronger than maternal love. Lily cycled through new victims, a boyfriend here, a friend there, anyone who hadn't heard about the party. But Jake and I built something new. Coffee once a month, no money talk allowed. He showed me his budget spreadsheet once, proud as a kid with a good report card. We were learning to be siblings without transactions. Aunt Helen became unexpected family. Sunday dinners at her house, where we talked about books and movies. Never money. She'd cut mom off too, tired of enabling the dysfunction. Family isn't blood, she said one evening. It's choice. And I choose the people who choose growth. The support group I'd started had become a movement. We had a website, resources, even a small fund for people escaping financial abuse. My story, posted anonymously, had been shared thousands of times. Robert and Sandra invited me to their actual family gatherings. Their kids called me Aunt Faith. I belonged somewhere finally, without a price tag attached. The company party rolled around again. This year, I brought Jake as my +1. No drama, no speeches, just 2 siblings learning to exist without exploitation. I'm proud of you, he said during the CEO's toast. For saying no. It saved me too, in a weird way. How? Watching you have boundaries made me realize I needed them, with Mom, with Lily, with myself. Mom and Lily weren't invited this year. But their absence felt like presence, the presence of peace, of possibility, of a life where love doesn't cost $186,000. So here's what I learned from losing $186,000 and finding myself. Love doesn't require bankruptcy. Family doesn't mean unlimited access to your resources. And sometimes the most generous thing you can do is say no. The money was never really the point. It was about worth, theirs and mine. They believed their worth entitled them to my work. I believed my worth required their approval. We were all wrong. Real love celebrates your success without claiming it. Real family includes you in their joy, not just their crises. Real support flows both ways, or it's not support. It's exploitation with a holiday card attached. I don't regret the years of giving. They taught me the difference between generosity and enabling, between helping and hemorrhaging. Every transferred dollar was a lesson I apparently needed to learn the expensive way. But I also learned this. It's never too late to close the bank, to set the boundary, to choose yourself without apology. Some people will call you selfish. Let them. Their definition of selfish usually means, won't let me take advantage anymore. Their anger is confirmation that your boundaries are working. Some family you'll lose. That's okay. You're not losing family, you're losing parasites who happen to share your DNA. The real family will either respect your boundaries or reveal they were never family at all. And some people, like Jake, like Aunt Helen, like the chosen family you build, will surprise you. They'll rise to meet your standards instead of demanding you lower them. My bank is still closed. My heart is still open. And for the first time in my adult life, both my account and my spirit have a positive balance. Family is chosen by actions, not assigned by blood. Thank you for joining Faith's journey. If this story helped you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. What boundaries do you need to set? Share your story in the comments. This community supports each other. Check out my playlist on toxic family dynamics for more stories like this. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. See you in the next video.